Alright, hey guys, welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Jocelyn Reads. I just want to give you guys a heads up. I'm gonna look the same in this clip as I do in the very last clip because I'm filming this intro after I've completed this entire video, and I just came up with some things that I wanted to talk about in the very beginning, and I was just inspired a lot by this video and I had a really fun time filming it. So basically what this video is me rereading An Ember in the Ashes. I'm not gonna go too much into it just because I have another intro after this. I don't want to go too much into it because I'm gonna explain it, but basically I was inspired by my experience rereading this book to make this a series on my channel because it's actually rereading is a really fun thing to do, especially if you haven't read a book in a while, and I think it lends a lot of discussion for the book. So I just had a really fun time filming this, and I had a really fun time talking about me rereading the books and my changing feelings and what I had going on. So I wanted to do it again, and I thought, why don't I just make it a series on my channel? So I decided to make this a series called Jocelyn Rereads instead of Jocelyn Reads. I know, I'm so creative, love that for me. But yeah, and it's just gonna be me rereading my favorite series, my favorite standalones, even things that maybe I didn't like a few years ago, maybe me trying again. So yeah, this is now a new series on my channel. This is not the series that I was talking about on Twitter. I know I tweeted about a series that I was really into doing. This is not it. They have another series coming, so I guess I have two series on my channel now, one of which is this one. So yeah, roll the intro.
Yes, baby.
Alright, hey guys, welcome to or welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a new vlog. It's not a weekly reading vlog, but this is more of a special vlog where I'm focused on one book, and I'm really excited for it because it is An Ember in the Ashes. It is one of my favorite series ever, and so I've been wanting to reread this forever. And if you've watched my channel, then you know that I love this series, especially more towards the beginning of my channel. I talked about it a lot more. I think I did a whole video where I talked about my favorite series ever, and this was on there. I'll link it up above. Don't know how good that is now because I filmed that so long ago, but just so y'all know, I've always loved this series. But actually, Penguin Teen reached out to me and asked if I wanted to work with them to promote this series. I'm really excited for this just because you guys know that booktube is my hobby. So to be able to be paid in some sense to do my hobby, like I'm getting paid to reread my favorite series, like it doesn't get any better than that. So I'm super grateful, and I want to say thank you to Penguin Teen. And yeah, so this vlog will be just me rereading Ember in the Ashes. I'm obviously going to do some of the other stuff that I do in my vlogs, like if I get book mail, then I open that. I will reorganize my bookshelves. I think I want to do that during this vlog, so I think that will be there. All the cute little aesthetic shots, all of that will be there. So just because this is partnered and I'm focused on this book doesn't mean it'll be like really anything different than my other vlogs that I do. So I'm really excited for this. The newest book comes out in December, so Penguin Teen is hosting a read-along, and I'll link the dates up above. It is probably going to be a little late to be reading along with Ember in the Ashes, but if you do catch up with this after watching this video, then you can probably hop on board to reread the next book or read along the next book with everyone during the Penguin Teen read along. So that should be pretty fun. I'll link the dates here and here maybe, so you can have the ones for Ember in the Ashes and the ones for the next one. So maybe on both sides of me, I'll put those there. But other than that, I just want to get into rereading this. It's really good to binge because they end on cliffhangers, and Sabatier does not hold back on her cliffhangers, so I really like that I get to binge it. So if you pick it up now, it'll be even better because the next book will come out in December, and you won't have to wait that long for the cliffhanger that I'm sure Reaper at the Gates ends in. I can't even remember exactly when each one ends because they're all blurred together in my head. So I'm really excited to reread it because I think a lot of stuff will seem new to me. Like, it's a lot of stuff that I'll forget. I think I'll pick up on a lot of new details, and because I know a lot of different plot twists, I think I'll be able to pick up on that. Okay, so if you didn't know what An Ember in the Ashes is about, it's basically about this martial empire and this caste system that works throughout this martial empire. And the story starts off with Leia's brother being arrested for treason as he's been a part of this rebel group trying to overthrow the higher caste, and it becomes Leia's life mission to infiltrate the higher caste, which is like this military academy, to kind of spy and get information for the rebels to figure out where her brother is and to just get help to get her brother out of jail or wherever he is. She's not really sure where he got taken. And so Leia infiltrates as somewhat of a slave. She's like working as a servant in the caste system, and there she meets a boy named Elias, whose mother is basically the head. I don't know exactly what the name is in the series. I can't even remember, but basically what would be like a dictator or the president. His mom is like the head of this entire martial empire, and she meets Elias there, and Elias is kind of going through his own thing where he doesn't believe what is going on and what his mother is doing is exactly right. He doesn't believe in killing, but he's also a part of this greatest military academy being trained to be a killer. And so we get this kind of push and pull with him, and we see him and Leia meet, and then there's a whole bunch of things there. So it's really political and it's really character driven as well. Like, we really get into these characters' heads. So I'm really excited to go ahead and get back into it, because the last time I read it was, I think, a year ago. And I've been reading a lot of adult fantasy recently. Like right here, this is Priory that I'm almost done with, and I'm also in the middle of Kings of the Wild. So I think it'll be interesting to see what I think going from reading a lot of adult fantasy to going back to a YA fantasy. And I think this will still hold up despite me being used to adult fantasy right now, just because of how mature it reads for its age range. So I'm gonna go ahead and sit down and kind of knock out the first couple chapters and see what I think and give you guys all my reaction, and that's what we're gonna do.
Listening Library presents An Ember in the Ashes.
Down, yeah. I've been feeling so down, yeah. Can you tell me why? Can you tell me why I'm down, yeah. No friends of mine around, yeah.
Alright, hey you guys, sorry about this weird angle. We're getting a bit of a weird angle, but we shouldn't be here for long, so no worries. But I wanted to update you guys on what I was reading, and I'm in the kitchen making lunch, so I felt like this is the perfect time because I'm taking a little bit of a break from reading while I make the lunch. I'm only in the first couple chapters, but immediately upon reading the first couple chapters, it's reminding me why I was drawn into the story so much the first time I read it, and why it's such a bingeable series. So the book starts off throwing you right into the story. We're starting off with two family member deaths, and one family member getting taken to jail. So Laia, which is how they pronounce her name in the audiobook, so I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce her name. So Laia is a scholar. This is how the caste system is broken down, basically. So Laia is a scholar, and scholars are clearly people who are into books, university, things like that. And scholars are at the bottom of the totem pole. And who's at the top of the totem pole are called marshals, and they're just the head of this kind of like military-esque empire. And so the book starts off with Laia finding the sketchbook from her brother Darin, and it has a whole bunch of sketches of steel. And steel is basically how the marshals won the revolution. So there was some type of revolution or like battle-esque thing or war type thing, you guys get what I'm trying to say, in which the scholars fought the marshals, and the marshals quickly took them over because they had this special type of steel that the scholars did it, and it's just a very strong steel that is hard to defeat. And so in order for the scholars to basically rebel and uprise, they have to have this type of steel to be able to have even a fighting chance against the marshals. And so Laia finds this sketchbook from her brother that has sketches of this steel, and it's really hard for him to be able to get those sketches because no one's allowed into compounds that hold the steel, so there's just like no way that he would be able to get in there unless he is either a rebel or he's working for the marshals. And so Laia immediately thinks that he's working for the marshals, and she starts to confront him. And as she's confronting him, there's a raid. And during this raid, the marshals come in and they accuse her brother of being part of a rebel group because they know about his sketchbook. And they just raid his home and end up killing both of the grandparents who they live with because their parents have already been killed by the rebellion. And so their grandparents are killed and her brother's taken away, and Laia basically has to run for her life. And that's the very beginning of the story, like literally first chapter. And it reminds me of why I love this book, because we're just thrown straight in. We don't have to really get all that world building in the beginning. We get the action right off the bat, and I really love that because that's why I read YA fantasy. I read YA fantasy for the action, and so to get it immediately just immediately pleases me. I also really like how I learn about this stuff. Like, I know all of that from the first chapter. I know all of the depths of the world and kind of the background already from the first chapter, but like I said, I already get the action with it. So I really like how Sabaa Tahir weaves in the world building with the action, and not like how Sarah J. Maas does it in Crescent City, where I love Crescent City, so this is no shade to Sarah J. Maas or Crescent City, but she does breathe the world building in kind of like clunky. And in Ember in the Ashes, Sabaa Tahir is way more smooth with being able to incorporate her world building into the action. So like, I know all of this, but it's not really being thrown into me with like pages worth of just explaining this. And it makes the story a lot more engaging because you're able to know everything without also feeling like the info is being dumped on you. and for them. Love that. My vocabulary is amazing. I also really like how it is dual point of view. So like I said, we have two main characters. We have Laia and we have Elias. And so the chapters switch between each one. I really like how with Elias, like I told you guys, Elias is a character who doesn't necessarily love. It's not even that he doesn't necessarily love. He hates what he's doing. So he is part of the upper caste. He's a part of the marshals. There's like these levels to being a marshal, and the highest level to being a marshal is in mask. So the mask is part of the military people. They're kind of the highest level, and they obviously have masks that cover their face. And so the main thing that we know about Elias is the fact that his mask is still lifted off his face. And that just shows, it's like a physical embodiment of the struggle that goes on within Elias and how he doesn't like being a mask. He doesn't want to be a mask. He doesn't want to be a part of this military regime. So we start off with the book with Elias in this kind of cave system, and he's hiding a book bag. And what we figure out throughout is that he is hiding a pack because he wants to desert. And we find out that Elias's mother is the commandant, which is basically the highest person in this regime. She's the head of it all. And he hates his mother. His mother left him out in the wild as soon as he was born, and he had to find his way back. And he's just never had a close relationship with his mother. He doesn't like anything that she stands for. Well, I usually call Elias a soft boy, but what I'm realizing is Elias is not necessarily a soft boy. He's just a boy with morals. And it's so funny to me that in YA we call boys with morals soft boys, because we're so used to like Darkling, Cass has morals, but does he? Okay, so we're so used to like morally gray characters in YA, and so when we get a boy with morals, just immediately call him a soft boy. So I find that really funny, but he's still my little soft boy. And I like Elias right off the bat because he's different from a lot of YA characters that are in his same position. Like, for example, Reed from Serpent and Dove, or who was that? Like Matthias from Six of Crows. They always have to be convinced out of their point of view because they're so used to being taught this their entire life. But Elias is no different from them in the sense that he's been taught to follow this regime his entire life. But right off the bat, we start the book with him realizing that it's wrong. He doesn't need anyone to teach him that it's wrong. We're given a character right off the bat that knows exactly what he believes in, and he's just trying to find a way to get there. And I freaking love that about Elias, and it makes him a really compelling character from the very beginning. So right off the bat, I feel like Sabathia crafts characters that are really, really interesting and really three-dimensional, to say the least.
I've been on my way up, now it's really far down. I don't think I'll feel it when I hit the ground.
It is Saturday. I don't know why I'm starting this like an actual sit-down video. It's not, but we're at my bookshelves. But I also want to update you guys on I also want to update you guys on Ember in the Ashes. I got to read a little bit further last night, and I didn't update any, so I wanted to update you guys this morning, obviously, because this is what this vlog is centered around. And yeah, I got to page 170, and it's actually a lot different than what I expected, which is really weird for me to say because I'm rereading it, but I also did read it a year ago, and now I think of this series as a collective rather than just the first book. So I'm actually realizing that I forgot a lot of things, like especially the main character. So Laia, I'm used to her being like this really strong character, but I forgot when we start off this series with Laia, she is very soft-spoken and she doesn't really believe in herself. So I'm really not used to who Laia is as a character in this first book anymore, because I've gone through 2 other books with her becoming who she is by the 3rd book, which is a pretty strong, badass female character. Not saying that she's not necessarily badass in this book, but she's not to her full potential yet, and she doesn't really believe in herself because before Laia, I don't want to really spoil anything, but before Laia becomes a slave, she's just a normal girl living with her grandparents before they're killed in the very beginning. It's not really a spoiler because I don't know if it says it on the back, but it happens like in the first chapter, so I don't really count it as a spoiler. But anyway, she starts out as this girl with no type of training. Her parents, what we find out is that her parents have been like leaders of a rebellion, like they've had a really big role in the rebellion, and so you kind of expect her to have those traits for them, but what we realize is that she didn't grow up with her parents who are these like badass rebel leaders, and so she's really just Laia. She's just a normal girl. She doesn't have all these traits that her parents have at the beginning, and she's just really a scared girl who just wants to save her brother, and that's all she is in the beginning of the book. Love my dog. That's all she is at the beginning of the book. So seeing her as this character is really jarring for me because I'm used to who she is in the other 2 books. So I think it'll be really nice for me to be able to like track her progression from this book to the next 2 because I know who she becomes now. And it's just really interesting when they meet because she is meeting him as the son of the person who she is a slave with, even though she doesn't know necessarily everything about him and the fact that he hates his mom. And so it's just a really interesting dynamic. So I love that. And I also wanted to talk about the writing style a little bit. This writing style is a lot different than what I originally like remembered it to be. And I think it's because like I said, I've been reading a whole bunch of adult fantasy recently. And so adult fantasy is a lot more descriptive, I've noticed. That's the difference between YA and adult fantasy, in my opinion, so far. It's a lot more descriptive, and it goes into a lot more detail per scene. So, like, the trial that's in this book, I've already read through the first trial. And the first trial in this book was maybe, like, 2 chapters, maybe 3. Let's say it was 3 chapters. And no, in an adult fantasy, that trial would have been, like, maybe, like, 5 or 6 chapters. Maybe even, like, 7, because it would have went into every detail, every single thought that person had, every single action that they did. Like, I feel like we got thrown in the middle of the trial, and I expected a lot more because I just read, I'm in the middle of Priory, almost done with it, and everything in there is so descriptive. Like, you don't miss a scene in that book. You don't just, like, fast forward. Everything in that book is explained. And so for me to read the trial, it was, like, a little bit jarring coming from reading a lot of adult fantasy, because I expected it to be a lot more. So that's interesting, but I also have to remember that it is YA. So now I think I'm having a struggle with my rating system now, because I've been reading more adult fantasy, and now I'm kind of thinking with that part of my brain, and I also don't feel like it's fair to judge a YA against an adult, because obviously they're different genres. And so yeah, like, have you guys, people who do read adult fantasy and YA, how do you, like, distinguish your rating for them? Like, I can't hold this necessarily to those standards, so, like, what do you guys do who read both? I don't know. So I'm still thinking about that. It's not that the book is bad, I'm just now, like, have that part of my brain turned on, and I'm like, wow, I wanted more from this. Hey you guys, it is Monday, and it is my, those lights just fell, there's a ghost. But anyway, it's Monday, and it is my 3rd day doing my little Ember reread, and I think today will be the day that I finish the book, fingers crossed, but I think we'll get there. Since it's Monday, I had to do my online courses work, since I've been taking 2 online classes, which I think I told you guys like a little while back. It wasn't another vlog that I told you guys that. But yeah, so I spent the morning and pretty much most of the day, because now it's 4 o'clock. Damn, it's 4 o'clock. But yeah, I spent most of the day doing stuff for that, and now I am ready to sit down and read. Monty from It's Monty Price is doing reading sprints on his channel, which I love, because reading sprints make me super productive. Sometimes I use them to nap, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to use his reading sprints to read and Burnt in the Ashes. Yes, I'm gonna go participate in that and stop talking before I miss the rest of it. And yeah, we're gonna do that. Not Elias saying short men get no rights. This is really sending me, because I forgot how petty Elias can be when he's in his head, and I'm screaming. So basically, the scene I'm talking about is one of my favorite scenes of our 2 main characters ever. Like, it's just so iconic, revolutionary, life-changing. It's just that bitch, to be honest. And I just love the scene because Elias doesn't have his mask on, and Laya can't recognize him, and there's just this tension between the two, and Laya doesn't know who she's looking at, but Elias knows who he's looking at. And then this other guy comes up. I don't want to spoil anything, so this other guy comes up and kind of interrupts their little gazing at each other from across the room, and he starts, like, talking to Laya, and Elias in his head comments on how short he is. Like, he's considerably shorter than Elias, and I'm like, petty boots, petty, but I'm here for it, because I mean, do short men get rights? Let me stop before I get canceled, but I'm just playing, but I'm here for it. All right, hey you guys, so this is officially, drumroll please, I'm so stupid, no, I'm just playing. This is officially my last update for Ember, because last night I said I was gonna finish, and guess what I did? Finish. And that's like the, what was that? What was that? Next question. So I actually did what I said. This was like the only time where I said I was gonna finish a book, and I actually did it, so I'm pretty proud of myself. So if you could clap for me in the safety of your own home, I greatly appreciate it. But I want to show you guys my tabs. Hold on. The way these tabs are distributed shows my love for the book. Like, it just progressively just shows my journey with this book. Like, look at all those tabs at the very end. So originally, like I said, I was enjoying the beginning, but it wasn't living up to the hype that I had in my head for the book. And I said that was probably because of the fact that I was blending the entire books together, but I think that did have a little bit to do with it. But I also think it had to do with the fact that a lot of mundane things happen in the middle of the book that are later explained to be something else at the very end. So there's a lot of plot twists, there's a lot of things that you don't expect that come out at the end of the book, and that reminded me of why I love this book so much. So I wanted to talk about the trials aspect because I think I talked about that a couple of days ago, but then I didn't go into it more. I just said I was excited for the trials to begin, and I never talked about the trials. And I think the last two trials really like boosted this book in my mind, like the rating of the book. The first two trials, I wouldn't say I was pretty disappointed, but I was kind of disappointed by them because it was a lot of showing and not telling in the first two trials, and I didn't necessarily love that, so I was kind of let down. And then the last two trials came and they blew me away. They were really good, and I really liked how the author went into detail on these two trials, and the last two trials were really gritty and just kind of dark, to be honest, and I loved those the most. You know who I am. I love them the most, and it just really picked up the book from there. When the third trial started, that's when the book kind of just elevated in my eyes. So I think I'm going to end up giving this a 4-star. I definitely recommend this series a lot. I also wanted to say thank you to Penguin Teen again for like sponsoring this video, and yeah, thank you guys so much for whiting. What does that mean? Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and all those things down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.